Good morning, late July. And today, in the monthly webinar that I do, I'm Dr. Warner, if y'all don't know, I'm going to talk about the power of mindset because it's something I've explored over the years and it's in my book, Bone on Bone. Oh, can you hear? Sorry, we've had technical difficulties in the past. I want to make sure everybody can actually hear me today. Can you hear me? Anyone? Bueller? I'm just kidding. Today I'm going to talk about the power of mindset. I've learned over the years in my practice as an orthopedic surgeon and in life, that's sort of your attitude and your beliefs dramatically impact everything, but especially your health and your wellness and your ability to gain health and wellness. So my life is spent helping people feel better, perform better, function better. That's what orthopedic surgeons theoretically should do. But I've learned that that only works if a person is understanding and willing and believes that they can get better or they can change or they can get healthier. Without that fundamental innate mindset, if you will, I find it difficult to help people, which is frustrating for a surgeon, obviously. So in my quest to help people empower themselves and become healthier, I've learned a lot about mindset. I'm going to share with you what I've learned. And again, you can find more about this in my book, Bone on Bone. But anyway, I'm Dr. Meredith Warner, and this is my monthly webinar series that we do just to do it, totally free. Hopefully it helps you. Please share and like with friends that you think this might benefit or family members. And it'll be on all my websites, the welltheory.com and warnerorthopedics.com for you to watch later, should you find that something comes up this morning and you have to run off or whatever. Please ask questions. I do better with questions, and I like to know that you're engaged, so don't be shy. All right. That's me. Okay, so what is mindset? So once you understand this, that's half the battle. Well, maybe 25% of the battle. It's technically the established set of beliefs that shape how individuals, you, me, perceive themselves and their abilities, okay? There's a growth mindset, there's a fixed mindset, and this comes out of abundant amounts of research. And there are two godmothers of this world in psychology from whom I pulled a lot of this data and research, and then there's a couple of gentlemen as well. So there's Dweck, Langer, Seligman, Crum, and then there's some older information that I found. But I'm just going to share with you this talk. I sort of put it all together, but this is not research I've done, obviously. I've just applied this in my surgical practice in life. So the growth mindset, you believe that your intelligence and your personality can be developed through dedication and effort, and you can and will become healthy. So you really believe, even if you're not healthy right now, or even if you have arthritis, even if you have aches and pains, you really believe that you have the ability to make it better. If you have a fixed mindset, that is not true. You believe that what is happening is innate, meaning it's inside of you and it can never change. It's unchangeable. And that it is meant to be. And for instance, in the world of health, if you have a fixed mindset, you just believe you're unhealthy. You're old. It is what it is. Nothing's going to change. And everything this Dr. Warner is saying is a bunch of hoggledy-gop voodoo that is never going to apply to me. That is a fixed mindset, and I'm here to help you understand that you don't have to live your life like that. You can have a growth mindset, which turns out to be way better in all domains of life: financial, emotional, spiritual, health, fitness, whatever. Okay? So where did this whole growth mindset movement or school of thought come from? So you guys probably all remember the self-esteem movement back in the day, okay? This was kind of the 80s, the 90s. It was a big deal. Everybody thought that self-esteem was a thing, oh, you're beautiful no matter what. Oh, you're healthy no matter what. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so great. Everyone was told how great they were no matter what they actually were. And then it turned out later that we figured out that things like if you tell a kid they're smart all the time, that backfires. Then they get put on this little pedestal in their brain and they get scared to fail. So they get scared to explore new things and take on new challenges because they don't want to risk somebody saying that they're not smart because they're smart, because they've been told they're smart. Does that make sense? So now with a growth mindset, it's more important to focus on that they work hard, that they dedicate their effort, that they try. And then ultimately that, of course, makes you smart. But if you're told you're smart to begin with, it doesn't work. Same thing with healthy, same thing with if you're morbidly obese and you're told you're beautiful all the time, well, you don't ever have the chance to become healthy, right? And so this works in any domain, but especially in health and wellness. Eventually, there was a comprehensive review in the 2000s, the noughts, that found there was no evidence to support that just telling someone they're great actually increased one's true self-esteem. So it ended up being a bunch of bullcrap, and I think we all knew that at the time, but this became such a trendy movement, as we've seen in society. Once groupthink takes hold, all is lost, right? So these are just some cartoons from the time. And so this was the movement, the self-esteem movement of the 80s and 90s, was empty praise, celebration of mediocrity. It became okay to be mediocre, right? You weren't allowed to say to somebody that that's not good enough, you're not trying, right? Because then you're hurting their self-esteem. And then this was the time when everybody gets a trophy for everyone. You remember that? And I think, unfortunately, that's still somewhat pervasive in a lot of, particularly school systems. But what happened with empty praise and trophies for everyone is that we learned that kids never experience failure, and so they never had the chance to develop resiliency. And then what happens when you get in the real world? Well, the real world doesn't work that way. You are going to experience failure. You are going to have setbacks. The only thing that is constant is change. The only thing you can count on is that nothing is the same, and things are always going to happen to you that you're not aware of or you're not expecting. And without that ability to be resilient and to handle a downslope or handle a setback, you just become complacent and give up and develop what's called learned helplessness. So we don't want that. So from this movement, people started to realize that maybe self-esteem is not all that's cut up to be. Okay, so turns out 80% of school systems launched these self-esteem programs at this time, okay? One example, and this picture on the left shows you, they actually took it so far as to remove mirrors from a high school in California and replace them with self-affirmation signs because they didn't want girls to look at themselves and check their appearance because that would hurt their self-esteem. So you can see how these kind of movements just get taken to a vast extreme. I put this Doonesbury cartoon strip because a lot of you out there might remember Doonesbury. And one of the ways he became famous and well-known is taking on this whole self-esteem movement and then just rolling with it and making fun of it because there's abundant material there. And no one can read this. So it says, so you're taking your trophies. And this kid says, yeah. I know they're just cheapo dust catchers, but I'm kind of attached to them. And then he says, it was so interesting growing up in the middle of the self-esteem movement. And then the dad says, most improved trier, second grade. And then the kid says, yeah, I tied with the rest of the class. And that is the self-esteem movement. You could see how that might potentially backfire. But at the time, everybody thought it was a great idea. For example, in 1986, and of course it's in California, there's a California task force to promote self-esteem and personal and social responsibility. So in 1990, they produced this final report from their task force. Turns out to be the best-selling state document of all time. Think about that. People buy state documents. That's so interesting. 60,000 copies were sold. However, later in that meta-analysis I told you about in the 2000s that debunked this whole movement, noted that this relied on very low quality research, if not just anecdotal. Anecdotal research is like case reports, like, oh, let me tell you about one time I saw this. There's no causal relationship that was ever found between self-esteem and improved outcomes. Now, in California, they thought that if they could improve the self-esteem of people in the inner cities and in bad socioeconomic circumstances and whatnot, that it would act as a social vaccine and it would inoculate the community against crime, against poor school performance, against societal breakdown. So they actually thought that if they just told kids how smart and great they were, that those kids would not go on to doing detrimental things to society, like shoplifting, stealing, crime, whatever. Turned out, didn't work out so well in California. It really didn't work out so well anywhere. So how did this happen? Again, it's groupthink. And if you look around and pay attention to the news, particularly during the COVID epidemic, and even before then, you'll notice that there's always this tendency to groupthink. I see it in orthopedic surgery. You can see it in any industry, any subset of industry. There's always that push of groupthink. So at this time, there was this guy, John Vasconcellos. He was a legislator in California. He got this bug in his ear that self-esteem needed to happen. So he actually threatened the budget of the University of California and then got a group of professors that went and supported the concept and produces the research for that report that was the best selling of all time in 1990. He convinced the governor to form that blue ribbon panel that commissioned the report. And this then became the advent of the so-called social emotional learning movement, which, if I'm not mistaken, led to the whole movement of how kids were taught to enjoy reading and like reading, but they were never actually taught to read. And phonics was poo-pooed and pushed down because groupthink wanted self-esteem, social emotional learning. We were going to inoculate society just by telling people how great they were. So eventually this all got debunked and debunked and disproven. And the shift became to understanding that mindset matters, particularly having a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. The self-esteem movement put people into a fixed mindset, it turns out. So the shift went from thinking you had these innate qualities that could never change to focusing more on effort. So like, let's say I thought I was a bad runner. Well, in this movement, I would just say, okay, I'm a bad runner, but I'm still okay and I'm great and I'm amazing. Well, now I would say I'm a bad runner, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means I haven't tried hard enough, and I would start training. And guess what? I would probably become a good runner. That's the growth mindset. The shift here too was that the growth mindset, the mindset world, is very much grounded in very good research, as opposed to the self-esteem movement that was just pushed by particular people that were interested in it. Obviously, there's government contracting involved. People were making money, but there was no really good research. And then we went from just empty praise to actually focusing on effort. So a lot of this started in education, and then it went into health, went into the workplace, corporate culture, et cetera. Most of the initial research was in education, though. So we learned that you don't just tell kids how smart they are, or tell them, oh, it's so great that you love reading, or oh, you're amazing no matter what, and trophies for everyone. Now the focus is, if you really want a kid to learn, you got to teach them how to learn, and you got to teach them to love to learn. And you got to teach them that it's okay if you don't know things, and it's okay if it's hard, and it's okay if it makes your brain hurt. It just means you're getting smarter eventually. But everybody always has room for improvement, and you can always put more effort in. So self-esteem with empty praise is essentially creating what we now know is a fixed mindset. So people with a growth mindset believe they can learn new skills, get healthier, lose weight, get stronger, whatever, and that their wisdom and intelligence will increase with all new experiences, whether they're hard, whether it's a failure, whatever. Albert Einstein famously said, genius is just 1% talent, 99% hard work. Albert Einstein was considered a mediocre student at best for years. Everybody just thought he was a whatever guy. But he followed his love of mathematics and geometry and just started learning on his own. And he just loved the process of learning, and he just put in a ton of hard work. Turns out he was the greatest genius of all time, probably. Similar story with Michael Jordan, if you remember. Michael Jordan was not the greatest basketball player ever. I don't even think he made the team at Wake Forest or wherever he was initially. But then he started really putting the effort in. He said, you know what? I'm going to be a good basketball player. And he put the effort in, worked at it, and guess what? Greatest of all time, right? High school team. Sorry, he didn't make his high school team. Then he went to North Carolina. I'm not a sports fan. Next. I am an Einstein fan. So growth mindset, look at it this way. So here's two images of somebody about to approach a double black diamond ski slope, okay? So you got the guy on the left, right? Super stressed out, scared to death, freaking out. You got the guy on the right. He's all in, and he's going to have fun no matter what. So if you put a wearable or a sensor that, let's say it assesses heart rate, sweat capacity, respiratory rate, let's say you had a little monitor in the bloodstream that's assessed the cortisol levels, inflammatory markers. In both cases, their physiology is going to look identical, okay? You're going to have elevated cortisol, your respiratory rate's going to go up, your heart rate's going to go up, you're going to be sweating, any inflammatory marker is going to go up, right? But obviously, the guy on the left is going to become unhealthy and eventually have some kind of brain issue, right? Just stress himself out and get anxiety. But the guy on the right is going to get better at skiing. He's going to just become, maybe the world's greatest mogul jumper and go to the Olympics. Who knows? All this is a difference in how one appraises stress. So yes, a double black diamond ski slope is very stressful, but you can either appraise it in a very anxious driven way, or you can appraise it in a very growth way. Like, I am going to get so much better at skiing if I tackle this mountain, as opposed to I'm going to break a leg and die. So same physiologic response, different attitude, different health outcomes, different performance outcomes. Fixed mindset. Individuals with a growth mindset believe that their intelligence and personality are malleable, changeable, plastic, if you will. Can be improved with effort, with strategic thinking or strategies, and with help from others. People with a growth mindset look for help. They ask for, they say, oh, you're better at this than me. Can I pick your brain? Can you help me? Can you train me? Can you coach me? The fixed mindset do the opposite. They run away and hide. Fixed mindset believes that their personality and intelligence are innate and unchangeable. They're fixed, okay? They avoid the challenges. They're going to give up easily, and they're going to see effort as futile. So if you really believe that you're truly unhealthy and that you're aged, and because you're aged, you're going to feel bad no matter what, you already have a fixed mindset. And that's what I'm trying to change. I want you to understand that is just a mindset. It is not true. So characteristics of individuals with a growth mindset. If you have a growth mindset, or a health mindset, I call it in the book, you view challenges as opportunities for growth and learning. You view challenges as opportunities to get healthier and learn about health and to become better and become well. So you will embrace challenges. They will be exciting and engaging, i.e. the ski slope, right? And it'll be a valuable learning experience. So what if you fall? You're going to get up and you're going to know how to hit that bump in the slope a little bit differently next time and do better. You're going to embrace effort as a necessary part of growth. So I tell patients all the time, patients that I want them to start, let's say, going to physical therapy for their knee pain. I have some patients tell me, oh, I went to physical therapy before, but it just made my knee hurt worse. Or, but when you delve in deeper, it turns out what they were talking about was muscle soreness and soft tissue tolerance that they hadn't yet developed. And I explained to them, look, if I wanted to run a marathon and I went out and tried to run a marathon right now, I would probably be sore, well before 26 miles. But that is part of getting able to run a marathon. Without the effort, without the muscle soreness, without developing the soft tissue tolerance that, yes, you feel, you can't ever get there. So this is part of the journey, and you need to just embrace it and roll with it. You need to view mistakes and feedback as learning opportunities, not as insults to your intelligence, not as insults to who you are innately, right? And then you got to focus on the process. Enjoy the journey. Don't focus on the end result. That is the growth mindset. So this is where goals come into place, and goals are sometimes detrimental. So like, let's say you're trying to lose weight and you had a goal of losing 100 pounds. Well, at that point, that becomes sort of overarching and controls your reward system and hijacks your dopamine system in your brain. And if you notice that what you're doing isn't getting you to that goal point in a timely fashion, you begin to give up. You begin to think that the effort is futile, and you fall into the fixed mindset category. A better growth mindset would be to just enjoy each step of the journey that is a strategic step to getting to 100-pound weight loss, but never really setting a fixed goal that you have to achieve. Now, we talk about goal setting in other talks. We talk about the SMART goals, which are small, measurable, actionable, reportable, timely. You do want to have short-term goals, but if you set some big ballooning, big-term goal and then you find that you're not achieving it quickly enough, it'll put you back in the fixed mindset. This is especially important with weight loss, getting fit, and controlling pain. So this is what I deal with in my clinic all day, every day. what's wrong. Can you guys still hear me? Oh, all right. Sorry, we're having production issues again. Okay, next slide. So focus on the journey. So, okay, again, embrace challenges, value effort, learn from your setbacks, don't get frustrated by them. Okay, it's going to happen to everybody. Who doesn't have setbacks? There's not a single human being on this planet that doesn't have a setback, and there's like, what, 8 billion of us now? And be open to constructive criticism. So people with a fixed mindset take any criticism as an insult to them and their innate being, because they believe everything inside of them is a set and fixed thing. So if somebody says, oh, that's the wrong answer, that is taken as a personal insult, because that means that what I thought was the right answer is wrong, which means I am wrong as a human being. So you got to be open to feedback. You got to be open to constructive criticism, because guess what? It's only going to make you better. It'll make you stronger. You know, the Marines say that pain is weakness leaving the body. It's very much true. So remember this. Oh God, what was his name? Don Smiley or something from Saturday Night Live. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me. And this was at the height of that self-esteem movement, and Guy Smiley. And he would just talk to himself all the time and be this positive, like, I'm so super great. And then, of course, each skit would be some abject failure. But Guy Smiley kind of represents to me the benevolent and sort of fake side of the empty praise, fixed mindset, self-esteem movement. We don't want to be like that. We want to always be striving. So if you develop this growth/health mindset, you will have increased resilience and an increased likelihood of achieving your goals. Okay. And remember, you don't want to set a fixed goal that's going to depress you eventually when you're not achieving it quickly enough. But you do want to have goals of, I'm going to get better, I'm going to get healthier, I'm going to have less pain, because you know you can achieve those. You're going to have a fuller and more meaningful life with much broader experiences, because you're going to be more mindful about everything that happens to you. You're going to increase your awareness, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. You'll have improved well-being, because you'll be able to reduce your stress. And when you are stressed, those physiologic stress responses will ultimately make you stronger as opposed to make you weaker. And that all comes down to how your brain interprets those biomarkers and interprets those physiologic changes. That has to do with descending inhibitory pathways, ascending inhibitory pathways, developing new neural connections and plasticity in the brain. And all of this has been shown in neuroscience and learned over the past 5 to 10 years. All of this plays into getting healthier, getting stronger, getting happier, getting smarter, getting better at whatever your job is, living longer, etc. And most importantly for us, you're going to have improved health outcomes. Research is showing more and more that mindsets influence your physiologic responses, okay? For example, there was a study in Italy where people were having thoracic surgery, and post-op, when they gave them their morphine IV, one group saw the doctor come in and give them their morphine, and another group, it went through what's called a PCA pump, a patient-controlled anesthesia pump, but this one was preset, and it would just administer the morphine automatically on a time. So the patients are getting the same amount of morphine at the same time, but guess who had more pain relief? I mean, you already know the answer, right? The group that saw the physician walk in and administer the morphine had better pain relief. Why? Because their mindset was changed just by seeing the doctor walk in and give them the drug. And there's many studies like this. So we know that we can change how people feel and their outcomes just by changing how they think about things. Okay, so we know that those who view stress as a challenge, for instance, those who look at physical therapy as a method to improve and not a source of pain, rather than a threat, so seeing it as a challenge rather than a threat, they get fewer negative health effects. So they have fewer problems with any given treatment. And this has been shown in studies of kids with cancer receiving drugs to treat the cancer. When they're told that the side effects are signs that the drug is working, they have better health outcomes than the people that aren't told that and view them as side effects, right? So like, let's say nausea. If you know that nausea means the drug is in fact working in me and it's fighting off the cancer, nausea suddenly becomes something much better than it was before, right? And now you have a better mindset, and your brain and your body can work harder to fight the cancer, and you have better outcomes. All right, So we sort of talked about this. Increased resilience, enhanced learning, improved academic performance, improved health and performance, greater well-being. So fixed mindsets, totally different. This is learned helplessness. You believe your skills and abilities are fixed traits, and you avoid challenges because you don't want to appear to be unhealthy. You don't want to appear to be unintelligent. You don't want to appear to be slow, whatever. So you're going to avoid any opportunity to actually improve in whatever domain that is because you don't want to be seen as not the best or not good enough. Meanwhile, the growth mindset is seeing challenges as an opportunity to learn and grow. And guess what? They're learning and growing while you're sitting on your tuchus, not doing anything. So only people with a growth mindset are ever going to develop new skills and achieve success in life, particularly in health. You can't do it if you have a fixed mindset. So for instance, someone with a fixed mindset may avoid pursuing a promotion at work because they're worried about failing. But just like we say in sports, or people say in sports, if you don't take the shot, you'll never get the point, right? You may miss the shot if you take it, but if you never take the shot, by definition, you're always going to miss it, right? So you have to have a growth mindset. You can't make the shot you never take. I probably should not use sports analogies because I'm really not good at them. I can use quantum physics analogies. That's right. You miss 100% of the shots you never take. That is the difference between a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. Okay. Fixed mindset assumes that intelligence and talents are predetermined, leading individuals to avoid challenges and give up easily when faced with obstacles. This is a whole world of learned helplessness as described by Martin Seligman of Harvard. And I would encourage you to read some of his work. Learned helplessness really holds a ton of people back. A growth mindset, a belief in one's abilities to cultivate qualities. You have different thoughts and actions, and you go down the path of growth. So what I want you to understand is even if your knee hurts, your back hurts, you have eczema, your stomach hurts every time you eat, you can't lose weight, you got brain fog, chronic fatigue, you're stiff in the mornings, you're stiff when you sit for a while, when you get out of your car to gas it up, your hips hurt, all these things are fixable. The body has an amazing capacity to heal. The brain has an amazing capacity to control pain and control physiologic responses. And I want to give you those tools. So recognize and challenge your fixed mindset thoughts. So if you have thoughts that limit growth, such as I'm not good at this, or such as I can't do that because it hurts, or oh, I can't lose weight because my metabolism's slow, or I can't lose weight because everyone in my family is obese, or whatever it is, you've got to start being aware of these thoughts. That's your first step. Spend a month just being aware of these thoughts and write them down, and then you'll be mind blown. And then you need to replace those thoughts with more growth-oriented alternatives. Like, you know what? I can learn to do this if I practice. For instance, I like to play the piano. I used to play when I was a kid. I didn't for years and years and years. Well, now I've got little kids and I'm trying to teach them piano or help them. So I'm having to teach myself with them. And it's fun. Like, I'm really enjoying it. I watch YouTube videos. I do what I can. Obviously, I don't have a ton of time. But I've found that if I challenge myself, I get better at it. And then I, in turn, can mentor and coach and help better. So just focus on the effort. Just enjoy the journey of learning, the strategies. Know that, let's say they ask you to do squats in physical therapy. Maybe you can't right away because it hurts a little bit. So maybe you just do a little body weight squat 20 degrees against a wall, like a wall sit. Then maybe the next time you do 2. Maybe the next time you do 3, so on and so forth. Everything takes effort and time. Without the effort, without the time, it's not going to happen. So focus on the progress you've made and the progress you know you can make, rather than, how close you've gotten to that ridiculous goal you set for yourself. And in other words, don't focus only on the specific result. Like, don't say, I'm going to be the best basketball player in the world. Rather, you want to focus on, I'm going to shoot 10 free throws right now and see how good I do. And then the next time I'm going to shoot 10 free throws and see if I can beat my personal best, whatever. Each step matters. Just focus on the steps. And then when you make mistakes and have issues, like let's say you made a mistake and you eat a donut, just think about it. Why did I do that? What did I feel at the time? Become self-aware, become mindful. And then say to yourself, well, maybe next time I could just think this instead and see if it works. It may work, it may not. That is the growth mindset. You're going to take each challenge as an opportunity. You're going to change your strategies until you find something that works and lets you get to that next level. And then you also want to surround yourself with environments, with other people that also want to grow, that also want to be better. So you want mentors and peers that support and encourage this. The saying of birds of a feather flock together is so true. So if you're surrounding yourself with people with a fixed mindset, very negative people, it's going to be really hard for you to do the opposite. So part of a growth mindset is finding that social connection of like-minded individuals. Oops. What? All right, sorry guys. All right, next slide. Next slide. Okay, so I'll put this slide in to just show you how sometimes mistakes, accidents, things that mess up your progress end up becoming something amazing. So take everything and look at it with a different perspective. Alexander Fleming had a contaminated petri dish that was a mistake in 1928 when he was studying something, and he noticed this petri dish that had mold in it, surprisingly, did not have as much bacteria. And guess what that was? The discovery of penicillin. A mistake in the lab. He didn't look at it the wrong way. He noticed it. He became aware of what he saw, and he studied that. Turns out to be one of the greatest discoveries of all time for health. Another time in the 17th century, a guy with malaria accidentally drank from a pool of water that happened to be soaked in cinchona bark from a cinchona tree. Guess what? His malaria improved. And instead of focusing on what an idiot he was to not drink fresh water, and he drank this water soaked with cinchona bark, eventually they discovered quinine, which of course is one of the treatments for malaria. Röntgen, which that should have an umlaut over the I, mistakenly exposed some of the cathode rays that he was studying in his lab to a fluorescent screen that was even covered. This is in 1895. And he noticed that something happened to the screen. Now that was a mistake in the lab, but rather than just getting mad at himself and going back to his other thing and not noticing or being mindful about it, he never would have discovered x-rays, but he did. And since then we've had x-rays. Goodyear dropped a mix of rubber and sulfur accidentally onto a hot stove in 1839. It was a total mistake in the lab or whatever he was studying at the time. But guess what that was? Vulcanized rubber, which changed the world. 1839, mistake, looked at a little bit differently. And then Pasteur used mistakenly, again, he screwed up in the lab, but rather than having a fixed mindset about this, he had a growth mindset. He used an old and weak culture of chicken cholera bacteria to inoculate chickens. Instead of just throwing those chickens out and starting fresh with the normal, solid, healthy, robust culture of cholera, he noticed and became mindful and found that those chickens became immune to cholera anyway. And guess what that became? The world of attenuated vaccines, which most of our older vaccines, if any of you out there have had them, like the flu and all that stuff, those vaccines, mumps, measles, rubella, those are attenuated culture vaccines that Pasteur discovered by accident, but had a growth mindset. And again, one of the greatest health discoveries of all time. So what strategy should you have for a growth mindset? This is a pretty long list. The book Bone on Bone that I wrote goes into it a little bit more, but wait, all right, they want me to read it like here. That's your list. I'm not going to read it because we're going to go through them one by one. Okay, next. Acknowledge and embrace your imperfections. Accept your personal flaws and review them, view them as unique characteristics. So I'll think of an example in a minute, but basically, I'm not saying that you want that empty praise world. You don't want to just look in a mirror and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. But let's say, for instance, I have to wear glasses. Here's what it is. I embrace it. It's my imperfection. It's my personal issue. I don't worry about it. You know what I think? The glasses help hide the bags under my eyes. I love wearing glasses. I don't like wearing contacts. Also, I have a little bit of dry eyes, like a lot of people do. And contacts make my dry eyes worse. So I'm all in on my glasses. So embrace your imperfections. Face your challenges with bravery. Reframe them as opportunities. Remember, these are strategies I'm giving you right now. So approach a challenge with excitement, a sense of adventure, and press forward even if you're scared. So when you see that double black diamond, and I'm not advocating this, of course, don't go find a double black diamond and just go down it pell-mell. But my point is, in what? Yeah, if you see you have joint pain, well, now you got a challenge to improve yourself. Well, your joint pain might be because you're bow-legged and your adductor, your medial gastroc, and medial hamstring are all contracted, and that's making your IT band too stretched out, which is messing up your hip and contributing to your low back pain. Now, all of a sudden, your knee pain, if you address that and look at it as a challenge, has the chance to improve not just your knee, but your hip and your back too. So face each challenge with bravery, even if it's stuff that you really think or you've been taught to think is just you. You're overweight, you're older, you come from a family of diabetics, you're unhealthy. It is what it is. Just deal with it. That is not how you should do this. Pay attention to the thoughts and words you're talking to yourself. It matters. Notice if you have a lot of negative self-talk and try to start replacing it with positive talk, not empty praise talk, not like, oh, let's say you have terribly arthritic knees and you are overweight. Rather than saying, I'm amazing and beautiful the way I am, what I'm saying is if you have the thought in your head, I can't change, I'm old and I'm overweight and I've been this way forever and nothing's going to change that by saying, I know I can change because there's abundant amounts of proof in the scientific literature that people are able to lose weight, that people can improve their knee arthritis. It is possible. I know it's possible. And I'm going to find the people that are going to help me achieve it. I'm going to learn from them. Hopefully I can be one of those people to help you. Cultivate self-acceptance and don't seek approval from others. Rather, just seek mentorship, okay? Trust yourself. Prioritize your opinion. If you want to have your knee pain resolved without surgery, then find the ways to do it and do it. You can do it. It's been done countless times before. So sometimes if you have an imperfection, it turns out to work better. I'm just going to give you a random example from physics. In traditional semiconductors, which is how computers work on a computer chip, defects in the semiconductors degrade the performance and they get thrown out and they don't work well in a normal computer. In the realm of quantum physics or quantum technologies, those same imperfections allow what are called qubits to be made. And qubits are hundreds of times more powerful than the bits that are used in semiconductors. So for instance, if there's a lattice defect in the materials of a semiconductor that host unpaired electrons, that all of a sudden that semiconductor becomes useful in a normal computer, but then it becomes a qubit that can be used in quantum computing, which is massively more powerful. So sometimes the imperfections work better in a different paradigm. So try to look at everything with a different perspective is where I'm going with this. Okay, more strategies for you. One of the most important things for health and wellness, and this was shown in the blue zones, this was shown in meta-training and studies, and this has been shown in countless psychological optimistic well-being works of literature like Dweck and Seligman. Those that have a clear life purpose or a sense of purpose and pursue it actually are healthier. They do better in life. They're more successful. Most importantly for health. So all the meta-training studies, one of the things we've learned about the meta-training lifestyle, and everybody that knows me and has watched my work knows that I love the Mediterranean diet and lifestyle. One of the reasons that works so well is a sense of community of like-minded individuals, which we just talked about, and also a sense of purpose. So if your sense of purpose is mission-driven, great. If your sense of purpose is you just like to help your neighbors, great. If you go to church, great. If you go to temple, great. If you go to wherever, whatever your sense of purpose is, embrace it and roll with it, because without an overarching principle, it's meaningless. So sense of purpose is extremely important to obtaining a growth mindset. And then redefine your genius. Remember what I told you that Albert Einstein said, 1% talent, 99% effort. A lot of people say, oh, my back hurts because it's just genetic. Everybody in my family has back pain. Well, if you watch my other talks, you know that only 10% of you is predetermined by your genetic makeup, by the code that is written into your DNA. 90% is nurture or environment, or what you feed yourself, the stress you take in and how you handle that stress, the environment in which you live, etc. So 10%, 90%, or 1%, 99%. Either way, it comes down to what you put around you and how hard you work in terms of a growth mindset. And then if somebody criticizes you or says, that's not quite right, or you could have done this better or whatever, rather than taking it personally, embrace it. If somebody says, let's say you go to the doctor and it's whatever, your 1-year physical, and they say, oh, you didn't lose the weight we thought you were going to lose. You're still the same weight. Your BMI is still high. Rather than taking that personally and saying the doctor's saying I'm a terrible person, embrace that as a challenge. You know what? You're right. I didn't change my BMI this year, but I know I can. I'm going to do it this year. And learn from the mistakes of you and others and reduce the fear of trying new things. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes. You make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. The greatest athletes in the world make mistakes. The greatest scientists in the world make mistakes. I just gave you a list of people that made mistakes and they became amazing discoveries. So just be mindful, control your negative self-talk with mistakes, and use them all as challenges and opportunities. And this is especially important when you're trying to improve your health. Okay, not yet is valid. You may not be there yet. You maybe didn't lose the weight yet. Your knees may still hurt a lot. Think about this. Something like 50% of drugs only produce 30% pain reduction. So what do we do in the world? What does the pain management world do? They just keep adding drug after drug after drug to try to bump that 30% up to more of a 90%. You can get the same results from just mild changes in your lifestyle, mild increases in your activity and movement, mild changes in your diet. So even if you're not getting a perfect result of the weight you want to lose, or that you didn't have 100% relief of your knee pain, focus on the positive. Maybe those 8 visits of PT gave you 15% relief in your knee pain. That's amazing, because guess what? There's no side effects from PT. And guess what? You don't have to worry about going every month and paying exorbitant amounts of money to your health insurance company for a drug to achieve slightly more pain relief with many more side effects. So not yet is okay. Just keep moving. Take risks. Don't fear making mistakes. Be realistic about the time commitment. So a lot of people think, if I don't achieve this tomorrow, I'm terrible. That's a fixed mindset. So I think about things like this in the business world a lot. If you look at Target and Walmart, you think, wow, these companies are so big and amazing. But you forget that they've been around for 30, 40, 50 years, and they grew incrementally over time. We're just so used to seeing in the news all these unicorns, right? Unicorn companies. But even those companies, it took them 10, 15, 20 years, massive amounts of mistake, massive pivoting, massive amount of funding, tons of people working really, really hard to get where they are today. Uber, one example. Airbnb, another example. Facebook, another example. These things didn't happen overnight. These people worked really, really hard, and they've made mistakes, and they're going to continue to make mistakes. So be realistic about the time commitment to require to learn new skills, to learn how to be healthy, to learn how to eat better, and even to like how to eat better. And then really just prioritize the effort and the mindful effort over the speed of the change. So in other words, if you're trying to eat healthier and you want to lose weight, don't focus so much on the weight loss, but really just focus on how you feel about the food you're eating, and have a health mindset about every bite that goes in your mouth. Understand how it's benefiting you or not benefiting you, and really just be mindful about it. So in other words, every time you eat a bite of a donut, enjoy it, think through it, enjoy the mouthfeel, and then you'll notice that it eventually becomes sticky and gross and the roof of your mouth gets coated. And then notice how your stomach feels a little bit acidic after you're done because of that massive sugar load. And notice that you really gain no energy except for this very short burst that was counteracted by a doubly intense crash, as opposed to how you might feel when you eat blueberries. Notice the tartness, notice the sweetness, notice how your stomach doesn't bother you. Notice how you have energy, notice how you feel great. Understand all the antioxidants that just went into your body to help detoxify your brain and your cartilage. If you start having more of this mindset about food and getting this effort and engagement in it, everything becomes easier and better. And then, of course, take ownership of your attitude. If you've got a fixed mindset, own it, understand it, and then that will help you change it. If you pretend like you don't, then you're never going to be able to change. So this is an ongoing process. It requires constant effort and self-reflection. You always got to think about it. Manage your own expectations. I still do this. I'm always trying to get better and improve. And I'm always trying to understand, why was that so hard for me? Or why did I react this way or that way? And try to get better. And that's all you can do. That's all we humans can do, okay? Embrace the growth mindset, and that will allow you to unlock your health potential, unlock your wellness potential, unlock your potential with your family, with your friends, make you be better at work, make you perform better at whatever hobby you have. Let's say you like quilting. My mom likes quilting. She didn't know how to quilt when she started. Well, now she goes with her group of ladies. They go to the beach every year and quilt together. They have quilting meetings. They go to quilt stores together. They learn about quilting. They try new patterns, and it's awesome. And they've gotten better and better and better. And I love my mom's quilts. Now, she's never made me one big enough to fit on a king bed, and I'm still waiting for that. Maybe it'll happen, and I'm hoping she's watching this. But unlock your human potential. And when I'm talking about that, I'm also talking about your health and your wellness. You can be healthier. Your brain can have less brain fog. You can have less fatigue. Your joints don't have to ache and creak. And there's about 1 million ways to achieve that goal. I wrote a book that gives you a few of these ways, but hopefully I'll be able to produce more guidebooks, I guess, in the future for you, because the human body is amazingly adaptable and changeable, and so is your brain. Now, I put this in here just to know that there's always a counter argument. So this is an article from 2011 that somebody said optimism is a brain defect, according to functional MRI scans. So I'm just throwing this out there to show you that all literature can be read one way or the other. Statistics can be changed. But I think in your heart of hearts, you know optimistic people and you know negative people. And the optimistic people always seem to feel better, have less pain, be healthier, live longer, look better, et cetera, et cetera. And there is a fundamental reason for that.
You can't necessarily see the photo. Would you explain what you're trying to show here?
Oh, well, this is a group of fans for a team saying it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen. These are the Cubs. Yeah, the Chicago Cubs. Again, a sports analogy. So the Cubs are notorious for really not winning a lot. And so they're saying that Cubs fans have an optimism that is a brain defect. So that's why this was funny.
Yeah, before they were on 100. The last one in 2016, but it was 100 in year 8 drought. So for 100 and straight 8 years.
Okay, so 2016 they won what, the World Series?
Yeah.
They won the World Series in 2016, but before that they went 108 years without winning. We're in Louisiana, so of course we have the Saints. And during, what was it, the 90s, the 80s, when people wore the paper bags over their head. So the Saints were so bad for so many years that people would go to the games with paper bags over their head to hide their face and hide that they were fans. But they still went to the games. And then eventually, of course, we finally won a Super Bowl. Now we're bad again. But go next.
Some people are just saying they love listening to your positivity, and thanks for providing people an alternative program other than like the WHO and AMA. They like your way of thinking.
Oh, okay. So somebody just wrote in that they like my way of thinking. They're happy I'm presenting these alternative methods of thought as opposed to the American Medical Association and the World Health Organization. Thank you so much. And remember, those are bureaucracies. And what is a bureaucracy but a collection of people that all have groupthink and follow the same rules and have to think the same way, or they get fired or not promoted. It's an unfortunate characteristic of all large organizations, sadly. And then, of course, it depends on who's funding it, right? So think about who funds the World Health Organization and then who funds the AMA. More strategies for your growth mindset, which I also call a health mindset. You have to acknowledge and embrace your imperfections. We talked about that. Everyone has flaws. We talked about that. Self-love is positive, but don't go overboard. Don't think that you're this miraculous, amazing individual that, you know, has no issues, that aren't gorgeous, you know, because then you become just narcissistic, right? And you're never going to change. Narcissists don't change. So you don't want to do that, but you want to be okay with yourself and also understand that you can change. So let's say, for instance, right now, I'm very into learning about quantum physics and electricity because I treat a lot of nerve pain. I do a lot of peripheral nerve surgery, and I try to help people feel better that way. And it's really a very elegant and powerful way to improve pain. But I felt that I didn't know enough about electricity. So I started to learn about electricity, which got me into electrons, which got me into quantum physics. And really now, I'm even less sure that I know anything about nerves and electricity because it is just so amazingly just awesome how electricity works and electrons and how it works in the human body and how nerves work and how the brain works. So, you know, Understand your imperfections and face your challenges and try to learn and enjoy the journey. So I know I'm becoming a better doctor and a better surgeon by delving into this and learning as much as I can about voltage and amperes and current and resistance and Ohm's law and coulombs and all this crazy stuff, right? But at the end of the day, it lets me understand why the perineal nerve gives some people functional instability that makes them more prone to the outside part of their foot hurting, spraining their ankle and things like that, and balance problems and leading to hip fractures. All comes down to how the electricity passes in a nerve. And I wouldn't get there, I would never be there had I not embraced the fact that I really didn't understand electricity, so started to learn about it. And then, of course, pay attention to your words and your thoughts to yourself and to others. So remember I said be around a group of like-minded people. You don't want to be around a bunch of people that say you're never going to lose weight because everybody in your family's overweight. Oh, everyone in your family's diabetic. I know, it's hopeless. Just give it up. Go ahead and eat that cake. You got to surround yourself with other people that are going to help you on this journey. Yeah, sometimes you need supplements. One thing I've noticed is a lot of physicians still practice what I call ageism. And I tell patients flat out when they come to my clinic, I do not practice ageism. If you're 85, and I've done this, if you're 85 and you're active and you're working and your ankle is hurting and you're at end stage arthritis and you really have failed all non-operative treatments, I'm going to give you a total ankle replacement because it's going to make your life better. And I've done that. And he went back to work and it was great. So some people say, oh, you're too old for that. That I don't think is really ever true, with rare exception. Some cases it is true. Some cases there are enough comorbidities that yes, you can't have this treatment or that treatment. But in general, you can always build muscle. Your bones can always get stronger. Your soft tissue can always begin to tolerate more and more stress. Your brain can change. You can learn to sleep better. You can change your diet. All of this is changeable, which means it's not time, right? So there's no such thing as age. No one should practice ageism. It doesn't make any sense when you think about how amazing the human body is and how changeable it is. Same thing with mindset. But effort, you got to put in the effort. So it's all about effort. If nobody's watched NIAD, I would encourage you to watch it. This is a movie all about effort. So this woman was amazing and she never gave up and ended up swimming from Cuba to the Florida Keys by herself in the ocean and broke some record. I'm not sure if it was the speed record or like how she did it. But it's a movie about effort, about persistence, about not giving up, about having a growth mindset and learning, well, I failed this time. What can I do better this time? That time didn't work. What can I do better this time? She could have given up step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but she didn't, and she achieved her goal at age 64, the 5th attempt.
Make sure it doesn't make your mindset bad for not needing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right, next. All right. So in a fixed mindset, you avoid putting in the required effort not because it's easier, even though it is, but because if you put in the effort and you still make a mistake, then all of a sudden, whatever you felt was innate about you is no longer you, right? So like if you're a kid that's told you're smart and then they put you into, let's say, a calculus class and you weren't ready for it, you're not going to put in any effort because you don't want to be told that you're not smart. So you'll be able to say, oh, I didn't try. That's why I got a C on that test. I didn't study. No, I'm not doing that. I'm already smart. I don't need to do that. Well, meanwhile, you've never learned calculus. So quit looking at failure as a sign of inadequacy, but rather as a step on the path of getting better at something. So don't shy away from challenges. Don't fear failure and judgment. Just do it. If you want to do something, just do it. If you want to learn how to quilt, learn it. If you want to learn how to play the piano, do it. You want to run a marathon? It is possible. You just have to start with small steps and grow and enjoy the journey. Gregory Mendel, everybody's heard of Mendelian genetics, right? He developed this theory, but then got poo-pooed by the greater scientific community. Everybody thought he was a kook. They thought he was crazy. They told him he was an idiot, and he ended up becoming an administrative abbot. So he was also a priest. And he put aside his work and didn't pursue it because he had a fixed mindset about it and decided that what everybody said about it was true. Well, later, other people took his work and expanded on it and proved it. And now we have Mendelian genetics. And a lot of scientific breakthroughs have been based on that, particularly in the world of agriculture and places where you can breed plants and stuff. So here's a guy that actually made a scientific breakthrough and never was able to benefit from it because he had such a fixed mindset. Now there's another guy, Dr. Sem, and I don't have a slide about him, who, and I forget the years, but he was in Germany, and he was one of the first ones to do laparoscopic surgery, and he started in gynecology. And laparoscopic, you know, that's when you're using small incisions with the scope and doing it minimally invasively. At the time, the groupthink was everybody has good outcomes with our open surgeries anyway. There's not that many side effects. Yeah, they take a while to recover. They stay in the hospital and they have pain, but whatever, that's just surgery. And he was poo-pooed, and he was eventually even threatened to lose his medical license because they thought he was too radical, and who is this guy? But he kept pursuing it, and now laparoscopy, robotic surgery, is the standard of care. People do better, they have less pain, they have quicker outcomes, they get out of hospital quicker if they even have to stay in the hospital, all because this guy didn't give up, Dr. Sem. Somebody has a question on what do you do for bone-on-bone joint? Oh, we have a question. Yeah, I'll take a question. Okay, an unrelated mindset question. Go.
She has bone on bone, and she bought your joint supplement. What else can she do?
So this person wants to know, they have bone-on-bone arthritis. They bought my Joint Health Multi-Supplement, and they want to know what else they can do for pain. So first of all, I would say stop using the word bone-on-bone in your brain, because the reason I made my book title Bone on Bone was because I hate that phrase. That automatically puts you in a box, right? You're automatically in a fixed mindset. You have bone on bone. There's no hope. Once you're bone on bone, you're just waiting for your total knee replacement, right? That's probably what the doctors told you. So I want you to just get rid of those thoughts and just say, yeah, I've got a little bit of arthritis, but no one's ever correlated what an x-ray looks like with how a human being feels. There's no way to match it. You can have true bone on an x-ray and zero pain. You can have a perfectly normal knee joint on x-ray and 10 out of 10 pain. So just forget the thought bone on bone. What can you do? Well, if you're bow-legged, you can go to a therapist and work on dry needling and stretching of all the muscles on the inside of the leg that are contracting your knee and compressing the inside compartment, and then work on strengthening all the muscles on the outside to balance your knee. You can get bracing that balances out. You can work on movement and improving your range of motion. A lot of people have very tight hamstrings and very tight heel cords that have bone-on-bone arthritis of the knee, right? Besides the Joint Health Multi, I would strongly encourage you to consider omega-3 and D3 also, and tart cherry extract, and more importantly, changing your diet to a fully anti-inflammatory one. And then the other thing that really matters, that makes really not a lot of sense until you delve into the science of it, and it's in my book, is get on a schedule in terms of when you wake up and when you go to sleep, and match your eating to that schedule. So don't eat all day, don't midnight snack, kind of eat between a certain window during the day, and make sure you sleep every night, because the only way your knee can ever heal and repair the connective tissues, to include the ligaments, tendons, bone, cartilage, and muscle, is at night. That's when your body fixes and repairs DNA, misfolded proteins, damaged mitochondria, things like that. So there's many small steps you can make that are additive on each other to make your knee feel better. And your x-ray may never change, but how you feel will. So effort and appraisal of effort. So here's a guy that's been asked to do a deadlift, and he sees that weight, and he's just like, oh, I've never lifted this much. It's depressing. I'm never going to be able to do it. And here's a guy, somebody said, here, I want you to do this. And instead of getting all depressed and upset, he's like, wow, you really think I can do that? I think I can do that too. I'm going to really try. And even if he can't, I know that guy on the right is going to go back, downgrade his weight a little bit, and build more muscle till he can. The guy on the left is probably going to quit and, I don't know, start doing curling. Okay, next. Oh, I'm getting a response. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you so much. I just went to the ortho for the first time, and he told me I had no cartilage, and there was no hope for me. I've been so upset over the weekend. I'm so glad that you answered that. They can all read that.
Oh, okay. So Edie just responded. Edie just responded and told me that she went to the doctor, And he told her she was bone on bone in her knee. There's no hope. She's just going to feel like crap and come back to his office whenever she can't stand it anymore, and he'll replace it with what I fondly call a metal and plastic sandwich. And so she's been upset and depressed all weekend. Well, of course you were. A person in a position of authority told you that life was hopeless. That is the definition of forcing a fixed mindset on you, I think, so you can extract value, right? So a lot of the medical industry is predicated on convincing people that they're so bad they need surgery, or you're so bad you need my pharmaceutical. I'm here to tell you it's not true. A lot of this is treatable naturally, just with a better attitude and putting a little bit of effort in. So remember, everybody has, I guess, how they were trained and a conflict of interest, if you will. And that guy, that's probably what he does all day, every day. You're bone on bone, come back when you need the total knee. And then he forgets he said that. Then the next day he has surgery. He puts in a bunch of total knees. And then the next clinic, he sees all the total knees he just put in. So all he's thinking about are total knees. So he's telling you that you need a total knee. And this is just a cycle that goes on and on and on. You can break the cycle. Okay. Next. Next slide. All right. Growth mindset. Handle your mistakes and your feedback better. Have a better attitude about it. Don't worry about it. Don't let it affect you personally. That is number one. And then if you believe in growth, all these mistakes suddenly become learning experiences. And you're open to feedback. It's a tool for improvement. You actually want people to criticize you because you know without that criticism, you're never going to advance and get better, right? So Chopin never got to become Chopin at the piano without teachers telling him, that's terrible. You hit that E sharp with the wrong note of legato, and screaming at him, I'm sure, and whacking his hand on the keyboard. But guess what? It was all a chance to get better, and then he became a master. People with fixed mindsets would take that defensively, throw a tantrum, never play the piano again. I can't believe you said that about me. And then it's all personally, and that hinders your progress. I know this is hard. I know if you've spent, like, let's say 50 years thinking about things one way, it's hard to change how you think. But what I would encourage you to do is go read some of this literature, go read some of this work. You could start with my book, of course, but I barely scratched the surface of it, right? Go read Dweck's papers. Go read Aaliyah Crumb's papers. Go read Martin Seligman's work on optimism. Optimism is responsible for 75% of anyone's success financially, in their job, in their life. It doesn't come down to IQ. It doesn't come down to socioeconomic status. It doesn't come down to looks or height. It's how optimistic somebody is. Now, that is incredible if you think about it. We now know that all of our surgical outcomes, the number one most important factor that determines your outcome is the patient's preoperative psychological status. Were they anxious? Were they depressed? Did they have a bad attitude going into the surgery? Do they think they're never going to get better? Those people don't get better. So now we know we got to treat the depression and the anxiety first if we want our outcomes to look good on the back end. Okay, you can only unlock your potential as a human if you have a growth mindset. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, duh. If you have a fixed mindset, how could you ever get better? Because you're fixed, you're stuck in one spot, you're chained to the ground. So I would encourage you to develop a love for learning. So one of the ways you can prevent cognitive decline, besides all of the other stuff I talk about in the book with sleep and diet and stress reduction and all that, is to continue to learn, continue to work your brain out. If you don't work your brain out, then yes, it declines. So one of the best things you can do for yourself in terms of developing a growth and a health mindset is to keep learning. Go read some books about the Mediterranean diet. Go get some recipe books. Try some new recipes. Learn. Better, learn with some friends who are also interested in learning. Let's say you've never made a Mediterranean whatever salad. Go get a recipe, go to the store, bring some friends and make it together and enjoy yourselves and have fun and eat really healthy food that you know is going to make you feel amazing. And then if the salad, let's say your olive oil dressing, you put too much vinegar in it and it was awful and everybody hated it and it was the worst salad of your life. Don't get upset about it. Don't take it personally. Have some resilience. Say, you know what? We're going to do better next time and add more extra virgin olive oil. Wow, we learned a really good lesson here. Now, then think about the vinegar, that it's reduced your blood glucose, because that's one method to reduce your blood glucose is take a shot of apple cider vinegar before meals. And then look at it positively. Yeah, the salad tasted terrible, but I bet our glucose is managed. So take everything and look at it a different way in a health mindset, okay? And understand and believe in your ability to improve, because you do have that ability. No one's ever shown that people cannot, and I'm talking without a fundamental genetic problem. There's always going to be an exception to a rule. But almost everybody on the planet Earth is able to build muscle if they lift a weight. Almost everybody can improve their bone strength with weightlifting, and then sometimes you have to have some medications. Almost everybody can reduce GI symptoms of like reflux, irritation, gastritis by changing their diet. Almost everybody can learn if they read a book, right? So no one's ever shown that the human being is not capable of getting better and improving, but we have proven the opposite. And we proved it with the self-esteem movement, actually, back in the 80s and 90s. Okay, so here's your comparison. Growth mindset, health mindset on the left, fixed mindset, sick mindset, I call it, on the right. So you can either be in the sick role, and that's actually a term we use in medicine for people. Some people are in the sick role. That is how they identify themselves. And we all know these people. They identify themselves by their malady, by their pain, by their disease, by their whatever. That becomes their innate sense of being. They have a fixed mindset. We want to get out of that into the left column. Challenges you want to embrace as opportunity. If you have a fixed mindset, challenges are avoided. They're seen as a threat to your self-worth or how you view yourself. Growth mindset, effort, essential to master something. You will never become a master of anything without putting in the effort. Fixed mindset, effort is fruitless. If you don't have the talent, effort's useless. How am I ever going to become the best basketball player in the world? I'm just not talented enough. My high school team wouldn't take me. Get rid of that attitude. Setbacks in the growth mindset. Everybody has setbacks. Everybody fails. This is an opportunity for learning, for resilience, for becoming better. Maybe that setback makes me look at a problem a little bit differently and I approach it differently. And now I'm going to find the answer quicker. Fixed mindset. If you have a setback, it just proves that you have no talent. It just proves what you thought about yourself. That yes, I was born to be heavy and I was born to be diabetic. It's proof. I ate that cake. It's proof of it. Feedback. Seek criticism, use it for improvement. That's what people in the growth mindset do. Fixed mindset, you avoid it. You don't want criticism because they're talking about you. They're talking about who you are innately, and you get defensive. So you can see the differences in how you approach everything that everybody gets in life. Everybody gets challenges. Everybody has to put effort forth at some point. Everybody has setbacks, and everybody gets feedback. Question is, how do you handle it, and how do you think about it? So this cartoon of this very large, enormous elephant standing next to a stake in the ground with a rope is a very famous image, and it's been drawn in many different ways from Martin Seligman and his team about learned helplessness. So how this begins, a real cartoon, which I didn't have time to find. There's a baby elephant that's tied to a stake, and the baby elephant is too small and really can't get away. Over time, as the elephant grows, it begins to see this stake as unchangeable, unmovable. This is how it is. I cannot move because I'm tied to the stake. Even when this elephant is so enormous, it could clearly pick the stake up out of the ground with its trunk and walk away and be free. But it has learned helplessness. It believes that it can't, and therefore it can't. I don't want you to be that elephant, okay? I want you to rip that stake out and go about your business. So in a fixed mindset, they have learned helplessness and they give up easily because they believe effort is futile, or they don't even put any effort in to begin with. And then you create obstacles for yourself to motivation and learning. And therefore, you have less motivation. Remember how I told you that the self-esteem movement led to people not doing well in school and not doing well in society? It's because they had no motivation, because they believed that they were already so smart and so amazing and so special. They never felt the need to improve or to grow. And that leads to underperformance, especially in health and wellness. All right, optimism versus pessimism. Growth mindset, you're optimistic. Fixed mindset, you're pessimistic. That outlook changes everything. It changes how your body handles physiologic stress. It changes how you perform. It changes about how you're going to respond to any treatment, any given treatment for any given disease. And I put these two examples of Sisyphus, okay? And then with the negative mindset, you know, every time you roll that rock up, it's just going to roll back down. You roll that rock up, it's going to roll back down. Or you can really believe I'm going to get to the top of that mountain and the world's going to change and the sun's going to shine and heaven is going to open for me. So I want you to have an optimistic explanatory style, and we're about to talk about that. So what is an explanatory style? It is an individual's habitual way of explaining the causes of events, particularly negative ones. And I showed these two pictures on the bottom of the brain. The left is an optimistic brain and the right is a pessimistic brain. So these have been studied. There's certain ways you can do MRI scans of the brain with markers on certain neurotransmitters, and you can map where activity is in the brain. And there's actually differences in the brain of how people think about things. Next slide. And it becomes a habit. So you just need to break the habit of how you think about it. So if you have a pessimistic habitual way of thinking about things, all of your setbacks are permanent, global, and internal. And I'm going to explain that. Optimistic, all of your setbacks are temporary, specific, and external. And this is Seligman's work, by the way. So if you're a pessimist or you have a fixed mindset, all negative events are personal. It happened to me. It's my fault. It is what it is because of me. They're all permanent. It's never going to change. And they're pervasive and they affect your whole life. So like, let's say you're overweight, you're diabetic, and you're trying to become healthier, and you eat a piece of cake. Well, not only will you say that's because I'm just the way I am and I'm never going to change, but then you're going to think that you're a failure in all other facets of your life. And you're going to really take that in and believe it, and it's going to be pervasive. The optimists, the negative events are not their fault. It's always because of something else. Because innately they know that they're going to continue to grow and get better. The negative events are never permanent, and they're certainly not global. They're not affecting the rest of the life. So an optimistic person is trying to lose weight that eats a piece of cake is going to say, oh, that's because it was such a great birthday party and I really like that person and I wanted to participate and I know it was a mistake and I'm going to do better next time. And, you know, they still believe innately that they're great and good and they can continue to change. Next. So, pessimist, it's my fault, it will last forever, it'll undermine everything I do. Optimist, it's not my fault, that's temporary, and it's not going to affect the rest of my life. For instance, let's say you get fired from a job. The pessimist will say to themselves, oh, this is going to undermine everything I try, and I'm never going to recover from this. They believe the negative event will impact all of the other areas of their lives. They believe it's permanent and it's a lasting setback. The optimist will say to themselves, yeah, this company wasn't really a great fit for me, and I'm going to find a better opportunity that really values my skill set. And I'm going to learn from this and get better. They frame their job loss as specific to that particular company and a temporary setback with the expectation that they're going to find a better job in the future. So the same thing happens, you get fired, but you can look at it two completely different ways. And obviously, the optimist is probably going to do better in life than the pessimist. Is that a question or are you just talking? Okay, next slide. How's it coming across?
The optimist saying that he's actually got some faults.
Okay, my producer says that this means the optimist has no personal accountability. I think what I'm trying to say is that the optimist will say, I don't fit in this job and I think it's because of X, Y, and Z. So let's say, I don't know, pick a job. Let's say it requires soft skills on the phone and you're not good at it. So the optimist will say, I'm going to get better at the phone. I'm going to get a different job and I'm going to excel at it. Or they'll say, maybe answering the phone is not for me and I'm going to go get a job that doesn't have that and I'm going to excel at that. Whereas a pessimist would say, man, I'm just terrible at answering phones. I must be terrible at everything. So you can have personal accountability and still be optimistic. Next slide, please. Oh, so let's say you forget your spouse's birthday. The pessimist would say, I'm not good at remembering birthdays. And that is a permanent thing, right? I'm just not good at remembering birthdays, so I'm never going to remember them. And it's an inherent inability. So it is inherent to that person. So if the pessimist gets criticized for forgetting the birthday, then whoever criticized them for forgetting the birthday is criticizing them as a person deep on the inside and they become defensive, right? You've seen this happen. The optimist will just say, oh, I was busy. I was preoccupied with other things. I'm sorry. Forgot your birthday. That means to them it's temporary. They're not going to forget it next time, or they're going to try not to forget it next time. And the cause was due to a situational factor, not a personal flaw. Like, they know they're capable of remembering birthdays and they're going to do better next time. The pessimist would not have that same attitude. Same thing with getting good at something in school, success in math. The pessimist would say, I'm smart at math. This is that whole self-esteem movement. You're so smart at math. It's specific. All of a sudden, you're really just good at math, which probably means you're not good at reading and you're not good at social studies and you're not good at sports. You're really just good at math. Worse, you're going to be scared to try different and higher levels of math because you're going to be scared of being perceived as not smart at math. The optimist would just say innately, I'm smart in general because I know how to learn and I know how to put the effort in. It's a more universal optimistic view, and it suggests overall intelligence and can be applied in all domains of life. So the optimist feels more like, I'm smart, and even though I'm not smart in this particular subject right now, meaning I don't know all the answers, I know I can get there, and they're going to continue to learn.
Fine line between the narcissist and
Oh my gosh. Okay. So endless suffering, different meanings. So I put these two here. This is Prometheus on the right, Sisyphus on the left. So Sisyphus was punished by the gods and left to pushing up the boulder up the hill, and it would roll back down, right? Because he did something that angered Zeus. I can't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head. And he suffered endlessly, right? Prometheus was chained to a rock, and an eagle continually, repeatedly, over and over, ate out his liver while he was alive. But this happened because he introduced fire to mankind and improved all of mankind. And so he felt good about his suffering because he knew he did it with a sense of purpose and to make things better for all of mankind. So Sisyphus did something personal that was bad. I think he married the wrong person or whatever. And his suffering was suffering. There was no sense of purpose behind it. Prometheus, you could argue, had even worse physical suffering, but it wasn't suffering for him because he had a sense of purpose. So that's just Greek mythology sort of showing you the same stuff that now is being studied, right, in school. This knowledge is everywhere in any culture, in any tradition, that a good attitude, a sense of purpose and meaning and understanding you can grow and change will make you better. Okay, so Aaliyah Crum and Langer, I told you these are people very important in this movement, in 2007 wrote this paper where they looked at, where they had a group of house cleaners in a hotel. And they split the house cleaners into two groups because they noticed the house cleaners, it's a very physical job. You're up and down stairs, you're mopping, you're cleaning, you're scrubbing, you're on your knees, you're making beds, you're lifting things, you're moving stuff. So you're doing a lot of exercise, but they didn't know they were. So they took the two groups, and first they educated all of them as to the benefits of exercise, how it improves your health, how you're going to live longer, you're going to feel better, you're going to have less high blood pressure, you'll have less risk of diabetes, yada, yada, yada. So they all knew that. They all had that basic fundamental understanding of how exercise improves health. Then they split the group in two, and one group, they said, you know what? Your job is exercise, and you're getting all of these same benefits, and you're going to achieve the same health goals. The other group was not told that, okay? And before the study started, they measured blood pressure, they measured waist circumference, they did all these biomarkers, and then they let time go on. I forget how long the study was, let's say 8 weeks. At the end of the study, they remeasured all of the biomarkers, and guess what? The group that thought that their daily job was enough exercise to achieve health goals improved in all biomarkers. The group that did not believe that improved in no biomarkers. And that was without any changes in their fundamental activity levels. Nobody started going to the gym, nothing changed. They just did their job. But one group felt that it was healthy and one group did not. And the group that felt that it was healthy got better. The group that did not get better. And that was just mindset changes. That's how powerful the brain is on your physiology. And that's what I'm trying to express to you. So viewing stress as adaptive and not pathologic matters too. So let's say you're phobic to something, like I don't like spiders, I'm scared of spiders. If my kids or somebody throws a spider on me and I'm not expecting it, it's going to freak me out, stress me out, it's going to be awful. But if I intentionally expose myself to a spider to get used to it, all of that same stress response becomes beneficial to me and curative. That's called exposure therapy. And that's now being used for many, many different phobias and allergies and things like that. So if you intentionally stress yourself out, you will get better. And that is all mindset, right? It's the same exact stress, but it's just different how the brain is perceiving it. All right, the pessimist will say, I'm just bad at exercising. I don't know how to do it. It's just who I am. The optimist will say, you know, I've never really exercised much before. I didn't play sports as a kid, but I think I can start slowly and gradually get better at it. I'm pretty sure I can find some physical therapists or personal trainers to help me. I'm going to find something I enjoy like pickleball, and I'm just going to get better at it as I get stronger and more fit and I learn the skills. So just different attitude to exercise can make your life better, make that knee arthritis feel better. Okay, so here's some examples of pessimists in the popular culture I found. Everybody remembers George Costanza, right? In Seinfeld, total pessimist, neurotic, pessimistic outlook on life. He always expected the worst to happen, and it always did. And he always, because of his pessimism, every relationship was self-sabotage. All of his job ventures were self-sabotage, and he had terrible relationships. And then Betty Draper from Mad Men is another example. She was a housewife in the 60s who feels trapped in a role and struggles with her feelings of inadequacy and dissatisfaction. And then, because she's so pessimistic about her life, she starts to develop emotional and physical health problems. So if you look for them, you can find different examples of pessimists and optimists and kind of learn from them. And then optimists, Don Draper was the exact opposite of his wife. He had many challenges, and I would encourage you to watch Mad Men. It's hysterical because they smoke in the office all day long. He faced numerous personal, professional challenges, but every time he reinvented himself, he changed, he responded to the opportunity by adapting to it and taking it as a learning thing. His famous line is, change is neither good nor bad, it simply is. That is fundamentally true to life. Nothing is going to be static in your life. There's always going to be changes. There's always going to be challenges and setbacks. Look at the world around you. It's total chaos and crazy. That is never going to change. Nothing is set in stone except that everything always changes. It is what it is. The only thing that you can control is how you respond to it. So he accepts life's uncertainties and then looks for the opportunities in life's uncertainties and becomes ultimately successful. Jerry Seinfeld was the optimist, right? He exemplified resilience and optimism no matter what. And he would always just find the absurdity in life's challenges, right? And then just took it and had what's called a stoic acceptance of it and a very positive mindset. He just laughed at life's difficulties and he maintained a lighthearted perspective. And you see this in the show. Every setback just became something kind of funny and something that he could get better at and grow from and have life improvement. Meanwhile, George Costanza is making everything worse. So just start thinking about things in your life that kind of exemplify what I'm talking about, and it may help you develop your health mindset. So optimism is a significant predictor of positive physical health outcomes. Okay, it's super duper important. And this has been shown in study after study after study. 2009, this study from the Annals of Behavioral Medicine, Annals of Behavioral Medicine. Optimism and physical health, a meta-analytic review. So this is when a meta-analysis is when you take multiple studies and combine the data and make a bigger study set, so a bigger group of patients. And they found that optimistic individuals tend to have better cardiac outcomes and they have better overall physical health. And a positive outlook was found to contribute to better health management and better recovery from illness. And this is in the literature and it's been proven. Next. Here's another one from Health Psychology. Optimistic individuals are more likely to engage in healthy lifestyles. So if you're optimistic, it's more likely that you will eat better, eat an anti-inflammatory diet, go to bed early, sleep better, etc. Also, they exhibit greater problem-solving capabilities. They exhibit better coping strategies. Coping is one of the main determinants of how you handle pain and physical setbacks. So people with poor coping strategies tend to have more pain on that 1 to 10 pain scale and more chronic pain. And then optimists collectively enhance the overall quality of life and health outcomes. And this has just been looked at over and over and over again. I'm not making this up. I'm just sharing with you the research and the data I've learned. So Optimism turns out to be very protective against smoking and protective against substance abuse. If a student was found to be more optimistic in whatever survey they gave them that tests for that, they were found to be less likely to smoke and less likely to use drugs when compared to their peers. Optimism is also linked to not just lower rates of smoking, but lower rates of obesity and drug addiction in general. And optimists tend to be more likely to follow suggestions of how to get healthy and more likely to engage in healthy behaviors. So if you're optimistic, if you have a growth mindset, and more importantly, if you don't, know that you can cultivate these. Higher levels of optimism are associated with a longer lifespan or health span, okay? Better emotional health across all racial lines, across all ethnic groups, and across all socioeconomic groups, okay? All of that's irrelevant. Having a better mindset is what's going to help you the most of all. Optimistic individuals have fewer negative emotions. They have reduced exposure to daily stressors, and when they are exposed to stress, they handle it better. And then, of course, that contributes to well-being and longevity. And I put this picture in because I've seen images of 100-year-old Japanese people hiking in the mountains. And it's not that they're a different alien being, right? They're still a 100-year-old human, but they just have a different way of thinking about things and a little bit more of a growth and health mindset, I think, than we've been taught in our country. Your quality of life is better. So there's a randomized controlled trial here that I put in, the effect of positive thinking on resilience and life satisfaction of older adults. Randomized controlled trial, right? So that's good level of evidence. Demonstrates that positive thinking interventions, so just teaching people to replace the negative thoughts with positive ones, significantly increase resilience and life satisfaction among older individuals. Just changing your thought pattern. Another study, and I can't remember the actual reference, but a 90-minute exercise of writing your vision for the future actually made college kids 50% more likely to graduate, and their grade point average was 30% higher than the group of students that did not do that. And that was one 90-minute intervention of writing like your vision of who you are, who you want to be, and who you can be at college orientation. That's it. And it made that much of a difference. So mindset and diet adherence. Everybody has the biggest trouble losing weight, right? After quitting smoking, quitting sugar addiction and food addiction is pretty difficult. High optimism is strongly related to healthier eating habits and achieving greater levels of success in improving or changing your dietary habits, okay? More likely to improve it or to consume a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, which means fiber and antioxidants, right? And minerals and whole grains, and less likely to consume unhealthy foods. What are unhealthy foods? Ultra-processed foods, foods with added sugar. So optimism turns out is associated with better overall diet quality and less snacking. I mean, so maybe if you're having trouble losing weight, just look at your mindset and maybe there's something you could change there rather than beating yourself up about the fact that you're not losing weight on whatever diet you're on right now. Optimistic individuals are more likely to monitor their nutrition and adhere to dietary recommendations. Remember, I told you before, they're more likely to take health advice, such as reducing saturated fat intake or reducing ultra-processed food intake. And this is all from studies in the literature. And again, better social connections with optimists. So they've surrounded themselves with birds of a feather, right? So they've surrounded themselves with other people like them, peers that will help them achieve their goals. And that is the fundamental part of the Mediterranean diet that I think gets overlooked. Good social connections, emotional well-being, and that can dramatically affect your dietary choices. More likely to engage in social eating occasions. So they're not eating ultra-processed bags of chips and hot dogs and stuff while they're scrolling through TikTok. They're actually eating food with people and talking to them, and ideally making their own food, cooking at home with whole foods. And they engage with more healthy food options, fruits and vegetables, etc. We already talked about that. So optimists are more likely to adopt and maintain healthy eating habits, okay? Because they believe that they can make their health better and they can get better and they can change. And those are the references. So Viktor Frankl is a great example of changing your mindset about things, okay? You may or may not have heard of him. This is his most famous book, Man's Search for Meaning. He was a neurologist and a psychiatrist, and he was also in the Holocaust. So he was one of the people that suffered during the Holocaust, and he survived. And he wrote about how he handled it and how he managed it, his psychotherapeutic method, if you will. And what he developed was this philosophy of finding meaning in all forms of existence, no matter how bad it is, even the most brutal. While he was in the Holocaust, under that horrific life, I guess, he found meaning. He redefined his horrific experience into an opportunity to explore the depths of the human ability to be resilient. So in his search for meaning, he discovered that those who found meaning in any suffering or any sense of brutality or any situation, if you can find meaning and purpose, you're more likely to survive, do better, and get out of that situation. So a sense of purpose and a positive outlook strongly impacts your well-being. So I would encourage you to get a sense of purpose about your life and get a good growth mindset about health. It is possible to change. It is possible to have less pain. And you don't have to do it with pills and surgeries. So Victor, this is a quote from Viktor Frankl. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It's entirely in your power if you think about it. The only thing you can change is how you think about things. That's it. Because life is going to change around you and things are going to happen and it's totally uncontrollable. So I've developed sort of a 10-step action plan, and this is stemming from the book I wrote, Bone on Bone. MEDS is mindset, exercise, diet, sleep. All of these things are important. This talk is obviously about mindset, so we're going to focus on mindset. So number one, understand your explanatory style. And if you have a pessimistic, fixed mindset way of explaining things to yourself, challenge it. Recognize your habitual thought patterns when you're facing setbacks and challenges, okay? Especially when it concerns your health and wellness. Number two, identify those negative thoughts and dispute them. Becoming aware of the negative self-talk is step number one. You may not even be aware that this is happening. You may just be mindlessly going through your day, not aware that you're talking to yourself like this. Start to be more aware of your own thought patterns and notice if there's a habitually negative sense to it. And then try to change them, okay? Are these negative thoughts factual or am I just assuming this is how it is? Number three, replace the negative thoughts with optimistic and realistic ones, okay? This is a conscious effort. First, you have to become aware that you have a bad thought about something, like, oh, I'm always going to be heavy because everyone in my family is heavy, or, oh, I'm unable to resist cake because I'm addicted to sugar. Whatever your negative thought pattern is, just first be aware of it and then start to try to replace it with positive ones. So that takes conscious effort. First being mindful and then consciously becoming more positive in how you're thinking. Even if you feel like it's a fake out to yourself at first, you have to do this. And then visualize and write about your best possible self. One of the best ways to change one's mindset is to write it down. Write your vision for who you are. Write your vision for the future. Write how you're going to change. Keep a journal. You don't have to write in it every day. Don't beat yourself up about this. But at some point, write this down. And it makes the growth mindset easier to achieve. 5, get a sense of purpose, whatever that is for you, okay? I like to make people's lives better, make them have less pain, and I love teaching people how to empower themselves to get healthier. That's my sense of purpose, okay? Which is why I'm doing this for you right now. Get a sense of purpose, because if you identify what gives yourself meaning and direction, especially in relation to your health goals, then it becomes easier to become an optimistic and have a growth mindset. Without a sense of purpose, you're sort of just a grouping of electrons and atoms floating in space with no tether to anything. 6, redefine genius and embrace your challenges, okay? Recognize everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses, everybody has imperfections. Take your challenges as opportunities for growth and development. Don't take it as a personal threat to your self-worth or who you are. I put Martha Stewart in here because she was literally put in jail. And what did she do? Taught everybody there how to cook, taught them how to decorate cakes, taught them how to decorate, taught them how to sew. And she became a better person, came out and became even more famous and had even more opportunities for her platform. And she went in down roads we never thought she would. She partnered up with Snoop Doggy Dogg, of all things. None of this would have happened had she not gone to prison. 7, understand the impact of your mindset on stress, meaning understand that your perception of a given stress is going to significantly influence how it affects your health. So you're on that double black diamond. You can look at it badly, or you can look at it as a good challenge that's going to make you a better skier. You have a phobia. You can intentionally expose yourself to stress and get better, or you can be scared by it all the time. You can acknowledge that your job is very physical and it's going to help you become healthier, or you can look at it as just a terrible job that you're dissatisfied with and you're tired at the end of the day and it's a bad thing. Change how you think about things, because that affects how any given stress is interpreted by your body. So a raised cortisol level because you're excited about something will do you good. A raised cortisol level because you're stressed about something or anxious will not be good for you. Stress is a natural response to any situation, and it can be managed by you. Number 8, consider omega-3 fatty acids. Now, why am I bringing a supplement into this talk about mindset? Because every neuron in your brain requires a cell membrane to be filled with DHA, which is one of the components of fish oil, okay? There's DHA and EPA. You want a strong, resilient, flexible cell membrane in your brain, and you don't want inflammation in your brain. One of the ways to help your mindset is to reduce inflammation in your brain and give your brain the tools and the micronutrients it needs to form the new neural interconnections and to enhance the descending inhibitory pathways and the ascending pathways. The only way you're going to really get a good growth mindset is if you help your brain out and give it the tools it needs, one of which is brain food. Remember your mom always talked about brain food, fish, etc. That's because of the omega-3 fatty acids, integral to good brain function. So there are some physical things you can do to help your mindset. D3, magnesium, omega-3, glycine, tyrosine, we're going to talk about all that. Reducing the inflammation in your brain helps you develop a growth mindset. 9, please explore the Mediterranean diet, okay? There is a link between the Mediterranean diet, which is extremely rich in antioxidant and polyphenols, as well as omega-3 fatty acids, and the potential benefit for improved mental health and less neurodegeneration. Study after study after study shows this. So the Mediterranean diet, because it is so anti-inflammatory and provides massive amounts of all the micronutrients your brain and your nerve cells and your muscle and everything else needs, is one of the ways you're going to be able to achieve this growth and health mindset. You have to give yourself the right tools. And then 10, if you find this all difficult and it's overwhelming, then get some help. Now, I wrote a book about this. Maybe that's where you start, okay? Bone on Bone is the name of the book. It gives you some hints and some tools, and I talk about each thing, mindset, exercise, diet, sleep, in detail and give you some references. But maybe you need to go talk to a doctor or a therapist. Maybe you need to go visit a physical therapist or a personal trainer, whatever. Maybe you need help with stress management. Maybe you need supplement guidance. Don't be afraid to seek help, because that is fundamental to the growth mindset. If you have a fixed mindset, you're going to be scared to seek help because you don't want to look like you don't know anything. If you have a growth mindset and you realize, I don't really know how to tackle this, I need help, don't be scared to ask for help. So those are 10 action plans you can take. You do not have to suffer from bone-on-bone pain. Get that out of your brain. You don't have to have chronic pain. You don't have to be achy and creaky your whole life. You don't have to be weak and fragile and prone to falling and hip fractures. This is all changeable, fixable, and you can do it. Yeah, the book is available. It's out in stores now, and it's on Amazon, and it's on my website too. So if you think that will help you, which I think it will, it's an easy read, and it's something you can go back to and look at periodically as you need help. That might be a place to start. I know it's hard to find doctors that think this way, but there's more than just me out there, I promise you. Okay. So I have a whole line of supplements because I'm such a big believer in natural healing and health. And I know that it's really hard to really get the Mediterranean diet down perfect, because you're supposed to eat 9 servings of different fruits and vegetables every single day. And I know that everybody's life is too busy for that. So I personally take supplements to supplement the micronutrients I know I'm missing out on in my diet. And meanwhile, I still try to eat the Mediterranean diet as much as I can. The Mindset series gives you all of the building blocks you need to help your brain develop that growth and health mindset. So glycine reduces the excitatory glutamate neurotransmitter in the brain, and glycine is also a fundamental amino acid for collagen formation. So glycine helps tendons, cartilage, ligament, bone, and also reduces excitatory, ruminating, rapid thoughts in the brain, okay? 5-HTP is a precursor to serotonin. So serotonin is, of course, your feel-good reward neurotransmitter in your brain and helps stave off senses of doom or senses of helplessness. So 5-HTP will give you another fundamental building block. Tyrosine is the fundamental amino acid for the creation of things like dopamine, okay? So also very, very important for the reward system and how your brain works. And then finally, the Mindset gummies have D3, B12, and magnesium. Magnesium is a cofactor for hundreds of reactions in your body, and most Americans are magnesium deficient because the way the food industry has started to grow and develop foods. A lot of the soils are mag depleted, and so the plants are too. Something like 60% of Americans are mag deficient, and it is just massively important in the human body, particularly for nerve function, okay? So I have a lot of patients with restless leg syndrome, and if I get them on magnesium, a lot of those symptoms diminish. Same thing with migraines, same thing with menstrual cramps. D3 and B12 also fundamental to nerve function. And you can't get a good mindset unless your nerves are functioning well, because your brain is nothing but a bunch of it's a gloppy collection of nerves, all connected to each other, right? Neurons, all with deep interconnections and gateways and pathways. And you can make your brain function better if you give it the fundamental building blocks. That's why we came out with this series to help with mindset, because I know that you're never going to get healthier and reduce the pain in your knee and get stronger and help your back pain and perform better, be able to play on the floor with your grandkids and hop up and go grocery shopping unless you got the right mindset. And then, of course, we have the ones we've had for a while, omega-3 fatty acids. I take it every day because I can't eat enough fish to give me the omega-3 I need. Worse, a lot of the fish nowadays is farm raised, so it's diseased. They take salmon and they inject food coloring in it to make it have that pretty salmon color, because they're all raised in these high density farms, and they feed them the same stuff they feed the cattle on the high density cow farms. So a lot of the fish nowadays doesn't even have the same levels of omega-3 because they're not eating plankton and algae anymore. So I've kind of shied away from eating seafood unless it's fresh caught by a friend of mine, and I take omega-3. And then the energy and focus are heavy in mushroom derivations. So the beta glycans and polysaccharides that are found in different mushrooms like cordyceps, reishi, lion's mane, okay? Ashwagandha is also in these, which is an adaptogen that helps you manage stress and be resilient. All of this plays into it, but also remember sleep, remember diet, remember be with friends and family, surround yourself with like-minded individuals, and just believe in yourself. You can change, you can feel better, you can do more, you can get stronger, you can get faster, you can reduce your brain fog, and you can be happier. Totally possible. You just have to believe it and then start taking the steps. Effort is mandatory. We have questions? Does anybody have any last questions? This is my clinic, Warner Orthopedics and Wellness. We're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I teach for LSU Orthopedics as well in New Orleans. No questions. All right. Hopefully that helps you. I know there was a lot of material. Hopefully it's a launching board for you to learn more, because learning is key, right? Keep learning, never stop. And that includes about your own health and wellness. Oh, we got a question.
Should a bone density test be done?
This patient is asking if a bone density test should be done. Yes. Osteoporosis is a scourge of our society. It's undertreated and underdiagnosed. And now we know, because of the past 5 to 10 years of research between the very strong interconnections of the mind and body, if your bone is not strong and resilient, and you're not producing the right amount of osteocalcin and other different bone-derived hormones, because your bone actually produces hormones, okay? It's an endocrine organ that affects the rest of your body. Weak bone ultimately leads to weaker brains. So the brain is heavily dependent on strong bone, okay, and muscle. So yes, you should, if you're in the age group or the category that requires a bone density test, I would highly suggest you do it. You're either going to be normal osteopenic or osteoporotic. Osteoporotic, they're probably going to recommend a drug. I would say take it, and then eventually you'll be able to go off of the drug, hopefully, and just stay on calcium and D3. Osteopenic, the recommendation is always going to be calcium and D3, as it is for normal. We should all be on calcium. We should all be on vitamin D3. That was my very first supplement, had calcium, D3, zinc, C, magnesium, the connective tissue multi. So one of the other ways you can improve your bone health short of drugs, you're still going to require the supplements, is resistance training, exercise, weightlifting. So put your bone under stress and it becomes stronger, and it fills with calcium and it becomes better. So yeah, I think a DEXA scan is very important.
Thank you for the wealth of information.
All right. Somebody has thanked us for the information. You're welcome. Bone on Bone is a book. It has more information on this topic. And then, of course, I mean, it's amazing how much research is at your fingertips on the internet nowadays. You probably all remember, I remember looking at microfiche when I was in college, okay? So this is, there's so much you can learn. On my website, thewelltheory.com, and also warnerorthopedics.com, all my webinars are there. So anything from learning about oxidative stress, to the various sources of knee pain, to inflammation, to the Mediterranean diet, there's a talk there. So hopefully this is the start of your health quest, and you're going to gain that growth mindset, that health mindset, and get healthier, feel better.